So you walk into your garden center and you have so many choices. How are you supposed to know which annuals to plant in your containers or your flower pots? Don't worry, you've got this, because today we're going to talk about 4 questions to consider before you go to the garden center to help you make really good and simple choices. Hi, I'm Ann with Go West Gardener, inspiring new Western gardeners to find their green thumbs with flowers. In my last video, I talked about how if you want big, showy color in your flower pots or your containers, you want annuals. Annuals are the flowers that give you great continuous color for the summer, but they don't return next year. The thing is, you have so many choices for annuals, it can be overwhelming. How are you supposed to know where to start? Now, many people default to how a flower looks, which is totally natural. Do I think the flower is pretty? Do I like the color? Does it have a unique bloom that catches my eye? And all of these things are very helpful to consider because you want to create flower pots that you love for the entire summer. The downside with only thinking about flowers based on how they look is they may not last in your garden the whole summer based on the conditions that you have. So here are 4 questions to consider so you choose annuals that are more likely to last in your flower pots and containers all summer long. Number 1, how much sun will my containers or my flower pots get where I place them? Here's the idea behind this. Some plants love the sun. In fact, they need the sun in order to give you colorful blooms. But other plants, not so much. They actually prefer shadier conditions. So the idea is you want to group plants that love sunnier conditions together and plants that love shadier conditions together. So before you go to the garden center, take a look where your container or your flower pot will be and ask yourself, is it getting morning sun? Is it getting afternoon sun? How many hours is it getting? Does it look like it's getting direct light, as in there's nothing blocking it? Or is it coming through the trees? Or frankly, it's really not getting a lot of direct sunlight at all. All these questions will help you because when you get to the garden center, you can look at the plant tags tucked in the annuals to see if they tell you that these flower plants like sun, or these flower plants like shade, or these flower plants like something in the middle. And if you ever have any questions, you can always ask at the garden center. People are usually happy to help you. It's also worth noting that out in the west, we're at higher elevation, so our sun is a lot more intense here than other parts of the country. So afternoon sun in particular is really strong on our flower plants. 6 hours of afternoon sun out here in the west can be like 8 to 12 hours of sun in other parts of the country, which is considered a full day of sun. So pay special attention before you go to the store of whether your containers are getting morning sun, afternoon sun, or maybe some combination. The next question for you is, do you have wildlife in your area? And specifically, I mean, do you have deer? Here's why I ask. Some plants have actually evolved over time to be less desirable to be eaten by deer. Either they have a scent the deer don't like, or they may have a flavor that the deer don't like. So if you know you have deer in your neighborhood, when you go to the garden center, be sure to ask where the deer-resistant flowers are. The key word here is deer-resistant. Just know that if an animal is hungry enough, it will eat anything that's available to it. Nonetheless, you'll give yourself a little bit of an advantage if you know that your neighborhood does have deer and you seek out deer-resistant flowers when you're choosing your annuals. Okay, question number 3. Do you get really hot summers, or are you more likely to get summer frosts? Here's why I mention it. Some flower plants do really well in the heat. They can handle it like a champ. Other flower plants really prefer cooler temperatures and do much better that way. In fact, when temperatures get down around freezing, they're going to be a lot more forgiving than some other plants. Very seldom are these two the same. So if you know if you live somewhere hot and you're putting your flower plants out somewhere in the sun, then you want to ask for heat-tolerant annuals. But if you know that you live at a higher elevation, much shorter growing season, and you have the chance of much colder temperatures, then you're more likely to want to ask for frost-tolerant annuals or cold-hardy annuals. Those are your annuals that are more forgiving at colder temperatures. Okay, last question to ask yourself to set yourself up for more success with your containers or your flower pots. And it's this: how much energy do you want to put into your flower pots? Now, all flowers need a little bit of energy, right? We need to water them, you might need to remove the dead blooms, you might need to fertilize them from time to time. But if you know that you're not so great about watering or that you're not so great about removing those dead blooms, there are actually flowers that you can choose that are almost designed for you. For example, let's say the idea of trimming off dead blooms on a flower sounds like a lot of work to you. Well, did you know that there are some types of flower plants that are bred to do it for you? They're called self-cleaning flowers, and they lose their blooms and take care of it all so that you don't have to do a thing. So when you go to your plant center, you may want to ask for self-cleaning flowers, those that shed their blooms on their own. You don't have to do anything. If you know you're not so great about watering, you may want to ask about flower plants that need a little bit less water, or you also might want to look into actual flower pots or containers that contain reservoirs that help water the flowers, or think about running drip lines straight up to your flower plants. So there are things that you can do to pick the right plants that are much more suited for your lifestyle. Okay, you're well on your way to choosing the right annuals for your flower pots and containers this summer. But if you'd like to feel even more confident, then be sure to check out my free mini training, 10 Common Flower Pot Mistakes and How to Easily Avoid Them. If this video was helpful to you, please share some love below and click subscribe for more videos to build your confidence with Western gardening. I'll talk to you next time.